Coming into the home stretch here on Halftime on a Wednesday. Phil Elson, SmackDown, Master Travis, and Bill King, the king of college football talk, joining us here every Wednesday. He is the host on Nashville Sports Radio from 6 to 9. Bill, how you doing?
Yeah, guys.
Yeah, it's a middle of the start of, still not quite the start of SEC baseball schedule. You got the tournament this weekend. Spring football is in the air. But I got to start with the thing that I had texted you about this morning. I heard a little bit of the audio recording of this Russ Propst conversation where he actually sounds like he had details, or what he thinks are details, about Alabama and Georgia paying players. And I know this guy, Probst, is not the cleanest of characters. What do you know about him, and is this anything to follow? Is this one of those things like where there's smoke, there might be fire?
When he was at Hoover, remember they had the MTV show, but he was a hot name, and I think Alabama and Saban would have hired him if it hadn't have been for the problems that involved the other woman and the affair and all that. He's been a very successful coach. The Hoover thing ended in a big mess. Time to move on. Ended up at Colquitt County in Georgia. Did a very good job there on the field. And that's an incredibly high level of football, probably about as good as any level in America in high school. Got in trouble there, quote, misappropriation of funds or something. Got to Valdosta, and the same thing's happening. And I believe he's only been there 1 year. And it's him and the touchdown club, quarterback club president talking. I think they're at odds right now, too. But I want to know who was that a wire, or was that an agreed upon conversation? I wouldn't think it would be. I find that part interesting too.
Yeah, because I mean, I saw some folks thinking, he's like just taking down college football powers along with him at the same time, but it also did seem like that it sounded like a recording that was being hidden. So it's a lot of intrigue going on here. And everybody, what happened at Tennessee, Jeremy Pruitt must have learned how to do that from Alabama. And if you're not paying players, you're not trying, I mean, is there fire where there could be smoke? Do you think this has any legs?
I don't think anything would be surprising. I think a good question to dovetail yours is, the ultimate question is, do you think anything's going to happen? Yeah. And I'm skeptical there. He goes back and he talks about how Bear Bryant had Mobile area taken care of back in the 60s. Now, a couple of things I know are true. Paul Jr. does run the show at Alabama. Nick Saban only answers to him, answers to nobody else in that whole athletic department. Paul Jr. does run everything. Now, that is correct. But proving that Nick Chubb got 3 installments of $60,000 to his family to stay that extra year, I don't think. And what if they're dealing in cash? How are you going to prove that? And you got to remember, the NCAA is not a legal team. They don't have subpoena power. So I would doubt any of this, unless somebody, if there's a snitch out there that's got receipts or something. But I would be skeptical that anything would come out of it.
Yeah. Would you? Let's put you in Jeff Long's shoes then. When you're hiring Les Miles and you ask him if there's anything that happened while you were at LSU that I've got to worry about, and he says no, nothing you got to worry about. Would you have been skeptical then?
Probably. Now guys, I don't know if we've had this conversation. I am not a Jeff Long fan, and he knows it. And he knows back to the SiriusXM days. He's a very thin-skinned. His hires at Pittsburgh, were atrocious. And some of the hires, if you go down the list, it's not very good overall. I believe, now, did he hire Bob Petrino? Was he the one that was a good hire, certainly before Blondie on the back of the motorcycle, but that was a good on-the-field hire if that was him. But I'm not a big Jeff Long guy, so I don't trust that guy to do anything right when it comes to this hire here.
There is one hire he made that I will always be thankful for. He hired me to do the baseball and basketball games here. That's the one thing I got for him, and I can't ever be thankful enough to be honest. But if I'm Kansas, it's like no, you're not. If I'm Kansas, I'm like no, you're not hiring the next coach. In fact, you got to be honest. Like, how long can he stick around as the AD?
I've seen one recent AD that might one that might be worse, and that's Steve Peterson, who was at Pittsburgh, left to go to Nebraska, trashed Nebraska, went back, got fired at Nebraska, went back to Pittsburgh, got fired there. And I first got to know him when he was the recruiting coordinator for Johnny Majors 25 years ago at Tennessee. And Joe Oliva at LSU has accomplished more, but everybody hated him. He's just such a jerk. But, yeah, one name that's out there is Darryl Dickey, who's, quote, the offensive coordinator for Jimbo. He'd been at Memphis and some other areas. He played quarterback years ago. You guys wouldn't remember at Kansas State. He's about 62, 63, too. He's not a young guy, but that's the name I'm hearing prominently for Kansas.
Bill King joining us here on Halftime. Bill, want to get a little bit more on the Kansas focus. And there was an article that was published on The Athletic yesterday, and I don't know, are you familiar with Pulaski Academy here in Arkansas, Pulaski Academy head coach Kevin Kelly?
They came here and played Ravenwood, and then Ravenwood went there.
Okay.
And I saw the first game. That's the school that doesn't punt.
Right.
They go for it. Yeah. That's fun stuff. I watched them and Ravenwood play. I think the score was like 85-78 or something.
Okay. So along that token, The Athletic did an interview with Kevin Kelly, and Kevin Kelly said he would do it for 90,000 a victory. So aside from that, what would you say about Kevin Kelly? You've seen his style of football. What if Kansas said, you know what, screw it, let's just shock the world and go get a high school coach that does a style of football that's never been seen? What about that?
I'm a big fan of his, but not a big fan of this idea, and not the 90K thing. I don't care about that. If he tried that at Kansas, they would literally lose some games triple digits. And you got to remember, Kansas, you're geographically very in bad. I mean, you're in horrible position geographically. You are around really good junior colleges. That's a real big reach, but you have to try to take advantage of that. And then you got to dip into Texas and wherever to supplement your talent. But geographically speaking, for football, you're in no man's land. So I wouldn't make that move. I love that guy, but I wouldn't hire him for Kansas.
Along that same token, do you think that style of football, aside from Kansas, any college coaching job that may come up in here in the next 5 or 6 years, do you think that style of football that Kevin Kelly does at Pulaski Academy, would that work in any semblance on the college football level?
Depends on the league. You try that in the SEC, and you're going to be the laughing stock. Your Wikipedia page is going to be embarrassing after you try that in the SEC. And look, let's face it, nobody in the SEC that's established as a power would make that hire. But if you're one of the lower 7 of the 14 in the SEC, and you made that reach because you're just chopping away and nothing ever seems to get right, you just get destroyed. Now, could you pull that off in a MAC or a Conference USA? Maybe, but guys, you got to remember, you still need personnel. I don't think you can trick your way offensively as much once you get to college as you can in high school. I just don't see it. I bet you he has a hot shot quarterback every time that he can depend on. I don't know that.
He does, and selfishly, I want him out of the state of Arkansas because that school is in the same conference as my BB Badgers, and we just get destroyed. Destroyed doesn't even do it justice. So yeah, selfishly, I hope it happens, but I guess that'll remain to be seen. A year ago, about this time, Bill, the world was just shutting down, and we saw the cancellation of the SEC tournament. So I find it fitting that a year later, limited capacity, whatever, but the SEC tournament's back. It's fixing to get tipped off today, in Nashville. You excited for the SEC tournament? Who do you think's going to win the whole thing?
Oh, not really. I mean, they're going to allow 3,400 people in there. I think that's the rule. I believe that's 20% or whatever the number is. And I'm excited. I'll have it on TV, but I'm not riveted about it. I think the only way this thing would get exciting if Kentucky made a run. And Kentucky, if they beat Mississippi State, feeds into Alabama. Alabama's set. So I could see maybe an upset there. I could also see Kentucky collapsing and everybody wanting to just get home. and get this horrible nightmare over. Arkansas, look, I think Arkansas is playing really well. I wouldn't count them out at all here to run this thing. And obviously tonight, I don't know if I may fake falling asleep once A&M and Vandy start playing. God Almighty.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really an exciting
That's weak, guys. That's weak.
Vanderbilt fans are more interested about the Vandy boys going to Oklahoma State this weekend. That's a new park.
Yep.
It's a really good baseball program with incredible coaches. That's going to be a really good test for Tim Corbin's team before SEC play starts.
Yeah, the coach is a former Vandy assistant, and they've got a very good program. And you'll see Rocker and Leiter, and they're also pitching a kid named Christian Little who came in early. He's 17 years old. Wow. He's hitting about 95, 96. Memphis hit him pretty good last night. Vandy beat him 10-4, 10-5. But they got after him. They were swinging hard on him, but they got a lot of good arms, guys. I just don't know. Tim Corbin is working that lineup right now offensively, and he hadn't found the right 1 through 9. And I don't think the hitting is consistent enough against an Arkansas. It's going to have to be a 2-1 game. And I guess with Leiter and Rocker, you can have those. But I don't know if they're as good at hitting as Arkansas and Florida and some of these other teams.
Man, the prevalence of 95, 96, 97 for so many. 17 years old, that is unbelievable. Bill, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Always
guys.
Love
Appreciate
talking
it.
all 3 sports here. We'll do it again next week. It's Bill King, Nashville Sports Radio. Joins us every Wednesday, our not just resident king of college football talk, but he's our resident Vandy baseball guy, too. Hogs don't play Vandy this year until maybe the SEC championship or maybe NCAA tournament. See that happening. Hey, don't forget, Baxter Regional is following all state and all CDC guidelines to keep you safe, committed to providing excellent care to every patient all around, not just Baxter County, but all around the region. Inviting you to make sure you wear a mask, maintain 6 feet of social distance, and if you are eligible and looking to get your coronavirus vaccine, go to their Facebook page. Make sure you like them. That's Baxter Regional Medical Center. Also, baxterregional.org/coronavirus. Change My Mind is the cherry on the top, and that's next.